We're super excited to have Brad Inman today. He's going to share some incredible information dealing with real estate and how we are coming out of crisis. And I'm super excited. Welcome, Brad.
Well, great to see you. Thanks so much for having me, Jenna.
Well, it is our pleasure. We have been connected with Inman. This is our third year now. And even though we're mainly in the home staging industry, I'm also a licensed realtor. We just love the information we get. So first of all, thank you so much for providing that platform.
Well, thank you for being a customer of Inman and a reader. I am truly grateful, truly.
Well, if people don't know you, give us a little bit of insight how Inman came to be.
Sure. Well, I was a consumer writer. I wrote it for big daily newspapers back in the day. And the internet came around and I posted a story that my editors didn't think was right for the newspaper, put it on the internet, early blog, and a bunch of realtors who were opportunists, as they always are, taking, seeing opportunity and seizing it, were already on the internet, and they started reading Inman. Probably started with a dozen readers, and now we have 1 million. So I'm a lifelong journalist, and I love the real estate beat. I love everything about it, and it's my passion. I live and breathe it, and we have this huge community at Inman that evolved over the years. It's really quite exciting.
Well, what I love about it is even coming to the events and, being a subscriber, you guys aren't afraid to go where no man has gone before. You're not afraid to kind of just stir up and say, let's be open and real about what's going on.
Yeah, we feel it's our duty to our readers, and we wake up every morning dedicated to our readers, and those readers are, 1 million real estate professionals. And, some of the big shots don't like it, but the average everyday working realtor, broker, owner, and all the rest, they want the unvarnished truth because it helps them do their job better. And sugarcoating and all that, and if they don't like it, they tell us. The great thing about the indie community, it's very open. We encourage comments, we encourage criticism, we even get haters, we get trolls, and that's just, the beauty of a country where we believe in the First Amendment, that's what's the difference between us and the rest of the world. That's why people love America. It's a free place, and freedom of speech is a big part of that. We believe in it, but we're really dedicated to helping the industry, through this past spring, 2020, the coronavirus spring, we just shifted gears totally into service to help our readers, our members, get through this mess. And the strength and the courage of the Inman community is just beyond, I get chills even thinking about it, just unbelievable.
Well, you're so right. Now more than ever, people are looking for information. They're looking for hope and encouragement, and just they don't want to I think, of course, we have in any industry, I would say 80-20, but really those top producers. And I know that for now, they are looking at, okay, don't put a wall in front of me. Let's go around the wall. And they're thinking differently. They're looking for that information. So kudos to you guys for even ramping up the information. And I know coming out of this crisis, you literally were in your home for 6 weeks without seeing anyone. Is that right?
Yes, I took it quite seriously. I have a daughter-in-law who's a doctor, and she's in San Francisco at UCSF, and she put out kind of the message to all of us to take all this very seriously. And by some odd quirk of events, my wife Yaz went to help her mother get back to Morocco, and when she got back to the States, she was in Florida where we have a home, and we decided together she should probably stay there. Based on some of our friends' experience, we think it was a great marriage preservation program. It was hard to be apart because we're very close and we spend all day together, talk, every day. So, I was alone, but I really wasn't alone, Jenna. You want to hear the real scoop?
I do.
Okay. So, through all this, how many have had not crazy times, panic attacks, little anger, some belly laughs, all the human emotions come out. Deep reflection. I found I was remembering stories from my childhood that never came to me because I was too busy running around in the present. And, but here's what happened. About 2 weeks into it, one day I looked out the window. Guess what I saw?
What's that?
I saw a group of unicorns. Now, I want to make sure you heard that. Unicorns grazing in my front yard. Now, my 4-year-old granddaughter, Quinny, told me that unicorns exist, but I had never experienced it like she had. And she always said, believe, Papa, believe. So I saw them and I kind of rubbed my eyes and I decided, yeah, I believe. And so I learned some things about unicorns, Jana. One is they're immune from the virus. They're immune from all viruses. They also can talk. And so I chatted them up every morning for 2 or 3 weeks until the morning I had to go pick up my wife Yaz at LAX when we decided that it's time for her to fly back. And that morning, the unicorns told me they were leaving. And I was like totally bummed out. I still get chills, and I was very sad. And I said, well, can I get a picture before you leave? I really want you to meet Yas. And they go, no, we have to move on, and you can't take a picture of a unicorn. Did you know that? And so I asked them why they were leaving that morning, and they said they had to move on to the next house where someone was alone. So for all the people out there alone, the unicorns are waiting for you. You just have to look out the window and believe.
There you go.
Now, I bring this story up because the humanness of the industry, both acting and behaving professionally, but also with empathy and compassion. I've been struck by that over and over again. And here's an example. During that same period, I saw the unicorns. Now, this is a more believable story. I look out my door one day and there's a brown paper bag. And in there was a leg of lamb. And a few days later, there was a whole chicken. And a few days later from that, there was some cooked ribs. Now, where did that come from? Did it come from Zillow.com? No. Did it come from Realtor.com? Did it come from KW headquarters or Realty headquarters or Remax headquarters? No. Did it come from DoorDash or Walmart delivery? No, it came from my local realtor, Byron. A Byron who knew I was alone. He didn't leave a business card. He didn't text me to take credit for it. He didn't ask me how they tasted. But I knew it was him because I couldn't, in this hyper local environment we live in, literally our houses, we spread our wings just a little. But the people that are in our towns and our community, which is the realtor, those that have that empathy, and it wasn't like I was suffering, but he just knew. And so the humanness during this crisis has been very profound. And it says so much about our industry.
You're so right. And I think it is an opportunity to really build those relationships, even, distance or like this, I think it has opened the doors to so many possibilities. If we can just see them like those unicorns, just see the possibilities, the things that we haven't experienced before. What a great setup, and I know that you are on the inside, you're talking to the professionals, even with your daily dispatch, all of the articles that are coming out, planning for these upcoming events. What are you hearing? What are you hearing that we can anticipate maybe over the next few months or so?
Well, I think we have to have two behavioral characteristics. We have to be realistic. We shouldn't lie to ourselves about what's going on around us. Whether it be, the savagery of the COVID-19, or whether it be the economy shutting down in a deep freeze, finally thawing here, it looks like, and what might happen or is happening to the housing market. We should be realistic. The first step to self-awareness is to face the realities. The second, though, is to be heat-seeking missiles for opportunity and to be positive. I'll never forget, it was January of 2012. Just a month before, I lost both of my parents, married 62 years. I was very close to them. I was a little bit of a rebel, but they were there for me my entire life. And they died back to back. And then this was during the Great Recession. I, like everyone, had 3 or 4 companies that were all not struggling, but they had their problems. And I would find myself sitting in my Upper East Side apartment in New York City, sitting in a little tiny kitchen in a little chair, at 1 o'clock, smoking a cigarette and drinking some bourbon. And I was pretty down. And then what happens next? Connect comes to New York 2 weeks later. And we had a pre-meeting, and I had to give a talk to 50 people before the next day, where I had to give a presentation to thousands of people on the main stage. And I had a colleague at the time, Chris Smith, who's gone on to great fame. And Chris was our MC and an executive at Inman. And when I got up before those 50 people, being all down in the dumps, Debbie Downer, I gave a pretty negative speech. And I'll never forget what Chris did. And Chris put one hand on each of my shoulders. He looked me right in the eye and he said, Brad, I do not want you to go on stage tomorrow and be Mr. Debbie Downer. I really need you to pull it together. I need you to fake it till you make it. Put on a positive face. I know you'll deliver the truth. That's who you are. But it's just how you deliver it.
Mm.
and do it with a smile and confidence, and give these people confidence, give them something to aspire to. I just never forgot that. You know, that was about 10 years ago. And so sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. And I think we can find our strength in knowing that human beings are remarkable, and
Right.
our ability to heal and recover. You know, after that and some other things that happened, you know, I wrote books, I did all kinds of things. You know, time heals, and this will heal too. But in the meantime, we have to show up, we have to face these challenges, and Jana, we will all get a report card. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure your report card isn't too bad. We'll remember who showed up. And I don't mean courageous, heroic acts. Not everyone can do that. But show up, be present. Be present for your family. Make it about them. Be present for your customers. Make it about them. My wife has a lot of great sayings, but one is, hey, Brad, take life really seriously. Take the world really seriously, but stop taking yourself so seriously. And I think what I was probably doing in January of 2012 was taking myself a little too seriously. And if you let go and loosen your suit a little, and just be in service, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, such words of wisdom there, and from experience. And I know that we don't have our crystal balls to be able to see what the future holds here. But how are you seeing the, you know, if we think about, we're here in about 10,000 square feet in Dallas, Texas. Obviously, we have bills to pay. We're still rocking and rolling within staging, and with our realtors, our top producers. You know, here in Texas, we maybe we're on pause for about a week, and then everyone just pretty much went back, obviously responsibly. And they did have to pivot. They had to pivot online where they could. How are you seeing that this is going to change the real estate game going forward?
Well, you know, I like to talk about the three dimensions of real estate and what I now call the kind of budding fourth dimension. The three dimensions for anyone in this profession is you have to have a high emotional IQ, you have to have a high tech IQ, and you have to have a very high market IQ. And the emotional intelligence has never been more important.
Right.
It's so important that we're empathetic, that we're in service, not, you know, hyper sales mode. We need to help people sell houses and buy houses, but we got to be in service to achieve that.
Mm.
Never before has our tech IQ been more important. We have to have the tools ourselves to be productive and efficient. And more than ever, because the market's changing, that's when consumers need realtors the most. They need to understand what's going on in the market. So your market IQ.
Mm.
But I've added a fourth one. I've talked about those three dimensions before. And the fourth one I'll call is, you know, the fourth dimension. And this is this incredible blend of our three other IQs with this new digital experience, where houses have become four-dimensional, virtual, where everything an agent does in terms of achieving a good consumer experience is in the fourth dimension. This whole digital experience, a very holistic process of buying and selling a home, has taken hold during this incredible pandemic, and has been a forcing function for people to adopt all these incredible technologies, to get rid of paper, to get rid of all the bureaucratic and administrative steps that held realtors back specifically from doing their job, which is to deliver superior service, to go out and find those listings, to help those customers, and help those buyers get through the process. And so that's been working in my mind, and is a big part of how I'm looking at the world into the future. I look at it very positive, but I look at a holistic digital experience where human beings are still involved in this, but kind of what I used to call the third brain, the human, the bot, and creating this kind of third brain, blending the two. But I now see that it being applied to the real estate transaction. And by the way, this isn't just big picture ethereal crap. We are seeing paper go away. We're seeing the
Mhm.
digital transaction emerging. We're seeing things like, you know, e-signatures just naturally being adopted. We're seeing institutions wipe out wet signatures and wipe out notaries and wipe out all these steps that go back for hundreds of years and really aren't necessary anymore. I always tell this story. When I go through homeless security, I go use something called Clear, and they authenticate Brad Inman. not by a wet signature, not by me signing a piece of paper, but by biometrics and fingerprints. If
Yes.
we can authenticate people to make sure we all fly safely from terrorists, we can certainly figure out a way to apply all the digital tools we have that haven't been adopted, that are out there, to make the real estate transaction as seamless as it is to go through Homeland Security. We can protect all the parties involved. We can protect the realtor and the contracts. We can protect the lender and the title company and the escrow company. But most importantly, we can protect the consumer. And in the past, we've been lazy because we were afraid we couldn't protect ourselves in the real estate industry. We put all the burden on the consumer. We made that process really all-consuming and difficult because we were afraid that we might be liable. And now it's time to get rid of all that nonsense and do it like we do with other, other walks of life. Every day, Facebook or Apple, they authenticate us to make, e-commerce transactions. They don't make us sign a wet signature. They don't send a notary to our house. Those are bygone days. Notary's been around hundreds of years. I think we can finally get rid of that.
Well, those are really good points. And I know even going back to when I think about July 19 in Las Vegas, it was very tech-driven, iBuyer, a lot of talk about that. Now fast forward into the first of the year when we were in New York, and a lot of relationship talk. So do you believe that it's the hybrid approach of, I don't know how the iBuying community is doing right now that went full into it, right? 2 feet, jumped in, virtual everything. And then you've got the old school where nothing is tech. Is it a hybrid approach?
Yeah, iBuying is here to stay, by the way. They're back. They're revved up. Wall Street wants to get in the game, and they love to buy real estate during changes in the market. So Wall Street's the engine and the financial muscle behind the big tech companies like Opendoor and OfferPad and Zillow. So they're here to stay. I think there were some people that mistakenly suspected that iBuying would go away because of the pandemic. It's just the opposite. We saw Zillow in the spring raise all kinds of additional funds. They have $2.5 billion in their balance sheet. So they're really poised in a position to be back. Now, what that means for the industry is it's just another buyer, and it's great to have buyers when the sellers come back. And, the sellers are coming back. There are people that need to sell their house or want to sell their house. There's probably a big geographical change here, which is part of this fourth dimension, which is people moving out further, possibly. Maybe suburbia will have a new renaissance. Single family homes look like they will have a new renaissance. There'll be all kinds of housing that people always want, but this could be that big geographical shift like we've seen, every 20 or 30 years with the highway system, with the ports, with people leaving the cities, with people coming back to the cities. A lot of smart people think this shift could occur this time. So there's a lot of interesting things coming about. At the center is still the house and the home. And I don't know about you, but I know more about my house than I ever knew before.
Right.
I have a little swimming pool. I never swim in, but I swim in it all the time. And it's really an exciting time. And never before, I think, as a realtor, been more important. And I often say, particularly in this fourth dimension, this big idea of the digital metamorphosis, beyond tech and IQs and things like that, is that we are going to see home be even more important in people's minds, and people are going to be more passionate about how they feel about their house and their home. And I think the realtor in all this, I think years ago they were at the center of the transaction with all the information, and then we gave all that information to the public. They were the captain of the boat. But now I think the role of the realtor will be helping us get on the boat and get off the boat. And I don't know about you, anytime I've ever got on a boat or got off a boat, there was someone there to help me.
Right.
But the consumer's really in charge, but they need help. They need a helping hand, get onto the boat and get off the boat.
You're right. That true expert advisor, which we've always called it. And I love that. Well, final thoughts. Give us some words of encouragement that, that we need to really propel us to the future here.
Well, I like to tell the story of the fog of San Francisco. It inspired Mark Twain to say that the coldest winter ever spent was summer in San Francisco. And the reason that is every summer, a certain part of summer, the fog comes through the Golden Gate, kind of like cat paws, and it just kind of wanders over the city. And it affects everything about our way of life in San Francisco. It affects how we work and play and how late we stay out and what we wear, and then it disappears. And I just want people to know that COVID 2020, it too came in like the fog. The only difference, unexpectedly, we can plan for the fog in San Francisco, but that raging COVID, 2020 is also dissipating and leaving. And so we can see through the fog, and just try to keep a good attitude, show up, face it, and remember, you'll get a report card.
That's right. That's right. And Brad, if people are not connected with Inman yet, what is the best way that they can do that?
Just go to Inman.com, and it's a plethora of videos and podcasts and news and information and research and opinions. And, I have people write me every day that are addicted to Inman, because we're about real estate. We're about high quality, best of the brightest real estate practices. The best people in the industry are part of that Inman community. And it's just every day changing with new and, information, updates and resources and opinions. And, we talk to everybody. We have a big tent. We have no judgment. We don't call them vendors. We call them technology real estate companies. We don't call, realtors agents. We call them realtors. And, these, we call brokers owners. I mean, these are all part of this big real estate tent. Go to Inman.com and you'll see it all.
Yes, and of course, upcoming events throughout the year are available. We're
All
also an
kinds, yeah.
Inman contributor, so we need to get some articles in for sure.
Yeah, please do. We love having voices and opinions. Feel free you can reach out. It's easy to find out how. If you have an idea or a video or an article, we don't like ads, we don't like self-promotion. What we really want is people who want to contribute to the whole picture. But thank you very much for having me.
We appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Adios.